I woke up and opened my eyes and looked at my phone to see that there were no sort of updates on Wednesday being able to have a bit of a flurry at it, and immediately booked a haircut and a beard trim because I thought that the day needed filling.
Hello and welcome to another edition of All Wednesday. This is the transfer window recap edition. It was a strange window for Sheffield Wednesday, a very chaotic one. We're joined by Alex Miller. Two signings, but it was a lot more stressful than just two signings, wasn't it, Alex?
Yes, that's to put it mildly. I think it was summed up with deadline day itself, and how that went one way and the other and just flip flopped constantly. But yeah, a long and frustrating one. To take the transfer window as an entirety, it feels so long ago. First of all, the released and retained list, and the players that left that, and you're thinking, well, if Wednesday can get some business done, a lot of those make sense. Some made more
Mm.
sense than others. And then you go through it, and Josh Windass and Michael Smith leaving in the circumstances that they did, through to JD Gassama, Anthony Masaba. Yeah, a very long and arduous transfer window. Um, and there's absolutely no doubt that Wednesday have finished it a lot weaker than they started it, sadly.
Yeah, I was sort of suggesting yesterday. Obviously, we're biased because we're a lot more involved with this club and this window than anyone else's. But I think there's an argument for it being one of the worst transfer windows from any club that I've seen. If you compare the outgoings and the incomings, obviously Harry Amass is a very exciting young player, but he's 18 years old. Ethan Horvath was a panic. That was him coming in to help out because of an injury that they had to get special dispensation on. But you reeled off some of the names there, and that's even without talking about, you look at someone like a Paul Valentin, who if they'd known now, sort of if they'd known then what they know now, that's just exactly the sort of player that you're thinking, what are you doing? Like what a bad decision that was, and that feels like Sheffield Wednesday in a nutshell at the moment, isn't it? Just what a bad decision that was.
Yeah, and it's confusing because you sort of knew this stuff was coming in retrospect. The
Yeah,
chairman and the club will have known what was coming down the pike, and while I'm sure the scale and just how severely things have fallen off, whether they've been able to forecast that or not, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, you look at, I mean, beyond Paul, because clearly Jan Valerie's still there. I mean, Michael Ekwa in this team,
yeah,
would be one of the very most important players. Obviously, Paul had his extension and what have you, but ultimately, as we saw with Josh and Smudge, could Paul have ended up walking away? All this sort of stuff. It's just, it does feel 150 years ago that we were
yeah,
writing those stories. In reality, it was only 2 or 3 months ago, and
yeah. I feel like I've
um,
aged about 5 years this summer.
I feel like I aged 5 years yesterday. Just to give people a like a an indication of how we woke up and how we felt it was going to go. I woke up and opened my eyes and looked at my phone to see that there were no um, sort of updates on Wednesday being able to have a bit of a flurry at it, and immediately booked a haircut and a beard trim because I thought that the day needed filling, and that
Yeah,
was cancelled after a couple of hours when it became clear that they were having a go at stuff. So, uh, yeah, I mean, yeah, I've covered, how many will it be now? 13 deadline days for Sheffield Wednesday. Would that be right?
something around there.
Um,
Yeah,
and despite the fact there was only one deal done and no outgoings, that was the craziest that I've ever. in county.
Yeah, I mean, I think if people were to see our WhatsApp conversations or our, hear our phone calls over the course of a day like yesterday, it really does vary, doesn't it? From like just the depths of despair to like, oh, something might happen here, and then just back to, oh yeah, no, nothing's happening. We think it's all going to be on fire again.
Yeah, the content of those conversations wouldn't be safe for broadcast. There's a couple of what the is going on, and
Yeah.
yeah, scrabbling around. And there was a lot of scrambling yesterday. Um, we have had deadline days where, if deals have been set up for a little while or look like they might be able to happen, you sort of have ways in, we sort of call it, don't we, in terms of getting
Mhm.
information. And people who've watched these for a little while will appreciate that, it's not the thing that we just ring up someone at the club and they tell us what's going on. I think some people have that impression. That's not just a Wednesday thing. That's sort of par of the course across football. Some clubs are more helpful than others, but um, yeah, with yesterday, things sort of being done on the hop a little bit. Um, it was a lot trickier, but uh, yeah, happy with our work in the in the circumstances.
I think it's probably important to point out in this that just because Wednesday didn't get much done yesterday doesn't mean there weren't people working incredibly hard for that to not be the case. I think you look at probably the two main figures in this are obviously Henrik as manager and Kev Bedell in his role in the recruitment side of things. They will have had very, very busy days yesterday, wouldn't they? And I think that the work that they'll have put in to try and get ahead of stuff. Obviously, we'll touch on the actual, players and stuff a little bit later, but the there was there was things lined up, wasn't there? Wednesday were waiting for this green light that ultimately didn't come on most players. Um, but they were ready to go, weren't they? If the EFL had said yes, Wednesday were on the brink of signing, 4 or 5 players.
Yeah, quite. And fair play for sticking with it, because I think everyone in any Sheffield Wednesday capacity has been thoroughly demoralised by the events of the last few months.
Yeah.
Um, and it's their job and their duty, I guess, to make sure that that doesn't slip into their psyche, and if and when things do open up, the club are in a position to move fast. And we saw that with the Ethan, keep going, Ethan Horvath deal. We saw how quickly that was done, and Henrik spoken with admiration for Kevin and the recruitment team for getting that done and dusted in time, for him to go off to Wrexham. And with this Harry Amass deal, it's, I mean, you reported on it very quickly, some weeks ago. And that's been one that Wednesday have been able to keep, on the back burner. Is that the right phrase? Or keep alive, really, where I'm
Mm.
sure, Manchester United will have had other suitors. And with some of the other deals, Jaden Heskey, again, that's another one that you revealed, and we gather that was agreed. Um, but for ratification from the EFL, Samuel Raksaki is another one that retrospectively I gather that Wednesday were um, very hopeful of finishing on deadline day, had things been just a little bit different. Um, Zapakito, I've completely butchered that. I've only written it
I was
down. I've
wa
not said it
I was
out loud
waiting
yet.
for you to try and get that name out.
Zapatino. I've only written it down. I've not said it out loud. That's the first time I've done it, so that's my excuse. Um, the lad Redmond, the Dutch lad from Aston Villa. That's one that things were sort of lined up with Huddersfield for a long time, but um, I gather that Villa quite like the idea of him going to Sheffield Wednesday. and getting match minutes and opportunity at a championship club, and so things were delayed over the weekend, and in the end Huddersfield announced it sometime after 7 o'clock on deadline day. So yeah, for Wednesday, despite everything, we're an attractive option, and they're only an attractive option as far as the package that you put together to sell it.
Mm.
And as you say, it sounds like Kevin and the recruitment team and Henrik as well, in terms of what he presented to these players and clubs, had worked very, very hard, and I'm sure there'll be no one more frustrated with the way that things have played out than those guys.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Harry Amass deal on its own, and that is one that for weeks Wednesday have been trying to get something done there. By all accounts, Henrik did a very good pitch, on why Wednesday was the right place. You could see that in what Harry said in his opening interview about why he felt it was the right place to be. He spoke highly of Henrik and the history of the club and all that kind of stuff. And that is one of the crazy things about Sheffield Wednesdays. Even in all this, even with everything going on, they are still a club that footballers want to spend time at, and that is, it's insane with the current state of things. But I think it is worth mentioning with the Harry Amass deal that is largely on Manchester United. I think Wednesday and Man United have got in terms of the fans, that Wednesday have not got the best relationship with Man United of old. But they will, they need to thank them for this, because effectively Man United came in and said, look, we want him to come here. We want him to be at Wednesday. So have footed the bill for everything, because it's the only way that Wednesday were getting anything done. I think there was a bit of confusion, wasn't there, over, well, if a club's paying the wages, why would there be any problems with that? But there are other things that come with a loan deal. There's accommodation, there's bonuses, there's all that kind of stuff. And ultimately, Man United have come to the party here and said, "Look, just get him down there, and we'll make sure that he's covered." I mean, he was at the 21s game yesterday. He was watching the Stoke game a few weeks back, and there was a very real risk at one point that he might have just been sent back over the snake pass back to Manchester, and not got a deal done. And I think that situation alone shows I suppose the state of things at Wednesday at the moment, isn't it? Like that even for a player on the day, that there's never any certainty of what's actually going to play out.
No, and it is worth saying, I think, when it came to it. So I gather that Manchester United are first and foremost very keen on Harry getting as many match minutes as possible, and that'll certainly happen at Sheffield Wednesday, you would think, and that they want him to improve his defending, uh, and without
So
being
I've got
too
plenty of
glib,
that too.
he'll have some opportunity there, and the big club pressure, and everything that comes with playing for Sheffield Wednesday. So with United so keen on Wednesday, when it got to deadline day, there wasn't an alternative option set up. So it came down ultimately to Manchester United. Are you going to help out very, very generously, and to their credit, where other clubs didn't, and why should they? Frankly,
Yeah, yeah, charity
um,
FC.
a loan deal shouldn't cost the parent club money, which is
Mm,
essentially what is happening here. Um, and the point's been made on social media. It's a bit of a difference to how Sheffield Wednesday or one man in particular has run loan moves of young players to different clubs in recent years, isn't it? But
yeah,
yeah, there's a snidey point to be made there, certainly. But yeah, I mean, to get one in the door, I've seen people talk about, with the encouraging performances of Reece Johnson. Why have they got another young left back in from another club, especially with the situation that they're in? I think it opens up the ability for Max Lowe to go in at centre half, where Wednesday are very short.
yeah,
And you've got in Max, you've got a left footer who opens things up and can start moves from the back, which is something that I think Henrik is very keen on. Um, and so it doesn't become Reece Johnson being a third choice left back. I don't think it becomes Reece Johnson, battling and learning with Harry Amass. So yeah, I mean, it's good that they got it in. Let's be fair, it's not a game changer. This isn't Sheffield Wednesday signing someone that's moved the needle 100 miles, but certainly a very talented player. I'm really looking forward to seeing him play, because I've got some good mates that are Manchester United supporters, and I've spoken to a couple of journalists that are have watched a lot of the under 21s. Have seen a lot of Harry play, and um, keeps coming back. He'll play for England one day. So yeah, let's see how he gets on in testing circumstance.
Yeah, I mean, it could very well be a situation where he ends up playing as a wing back as well, right? We've
Yeah,
seen Wednesday play that back five. Obviously, you say there about Max Lowe coming in as a left-sided centre back. We did see him play there last year, played very well there as well. And obviously, Harry Amass is a very young, very energetic, very lively player who will be able to get up and down. And Olaf Kabachski's stepped in and done a job there, but he's certainly not a left wing back. So I
yeah.
think having someone who's a bit more suited to that position will definitely help Wednesday. And as you said, Harry, by all accounts, is a very, very talented young player. So we'll have to see what happens there. On the actual ability to sign players, obviously Wednesday, the window's closed now, so it cuts off most teams. Well, it's not really affecting Wednesday that much because they couldn't do much in the window, and it closing hasn't really affected things. They will still be looking at the free agent market just like they were looking in testing times before. What do Wednesday, just for clarification for anyone who's not read the pieces that we've written, what do Sheffield Wednesday need to do, or what does Dejphon Chansiri need to do in order for Wednesday to try and utilise that free agent market?
I feel like I've written a variation of this explainer in slightly different ways in 150 pieces in the last couple of weeks. So here goes, uh, out loud. Sheffield Wednesday have been in close contact with the EFL's independent club financial reporting unit, open bracket CRFU, CFRU, close bracket, for many weeks now, to determine their sort of financial and cash flow forecast, and determine what business Sheffield Wednesday can do responsibly given all the financial, mispayments and misdemeanors and chaos and whatever else you want to call it over the last few months. And then and only then will the appropriate deals be signed off by the EFL, as we saw yesterday. So my thinking is that if loan deals that involve players who involve no fee and did not command any wage at the cost of Sheffield Wednesday, if they weren't getting signed off yesterday, what odds Wednesday being in a position to prove to the EFL that they can sign a player on even £3,000 or £4,000 a week? You extrapolate that over a month, over 6 months, and over a season. That's a big shortfall. And yes, I wouldn't expect there to be great waves made in that area. There are still players available that Wednesday have spoken to, but you look at the likes of Liam Cooper, Stuart Armstrong, you would strongly suspect they're not in the £3,000-4,000 conversation.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, the free agent market remains open. I would be surprised if it became open Sheffield Wednesday anytime soon.
Yeah. There is, I think, a lot been said, or has been a lot been said about the EFL and the way that they're handling things at the moment. I think a lot of Sheffield Wednesday fans felt that we're being unfairly dealt with. I mean, I don't know about you, Alex, but I think that in this situation, they have very limited muscles to flex, and they're flexing the one that they do have. I think, and it's obviously not helpful for Wednesday, it's not helpful for Henrik, but I think it's the right thing to do because why should Sheffield Wednesday, why should Dejphon Chansiri be given the right to you know, spend more money when there's no guarantees that he can pay the people that he currently has to pay. It's like I say, it's not an ideal situation, but it does feel like the right thing to do, doesn't it?
100%. Football is hugely important, um, but it is secondary to people being able to pay their mortgages, and live without the stress of um, potentially not being able to do that, which will remain with or without Sheffield Wednesday signing Liam Cooper or whoever it might be. Um, but having developed a knowledge of what some people are going through at that club, or have done over the last few months, um, yeah, I felt quite uncomfortable reporting, that there was interest, and that's no slight on anyone who was involved in that process. But you certainly, when I think it was inside a week that we were reporting on Liam Cooper and Stuart Armstrong, and like I say, that they're footballers who you would think are not chump change. Do you know what I mean? Um, it was either where has the chairman come up with all this money from?
Sorry, we lost Alex for a little bit there. But as you were saying, it's very, very important that Sheffield Wednesday are able to function as a football club and pay the staff and pay the people that are there, and maybe not sign thousands players on thousands of pounds a week. Just before we wrap up, Alex, we've got about a minute left. Bailey Cadamartery was the subject of interest from a number of clubs, one of which we won't mention. Um, how important is it that the transfer window closed and Bailey Cadamartery remained a Sheffield Wednesday player?
Yeah, hugely important, I think, especially with the circumstances around not being able to get anyone else in. That there is a world, I think, where if a club was to go to £2 or £2.5 million, you look at it and you go, well, maybe that's a reasonable deal. He's a very talented
Mhm.
young player, but his importance to this Wednesday team is very much there. There is a contract remaining on him, so yeah, an important thing with both him and Pearce, I think.
Yeah, obviously the Pierce one was. I think we would have been writing a little bit more about Pierce Charles had he not just had shoulder surgery, and obviously he put that post out on Instagram, which set everybody into panic mode.
Including us, by the
He's a
way.
kid. Yeah, definitely including us. But he's a kid, and there is a chance that that was completely coincidental. He didn't think about the song choice or whatever it was. But yeah, so Pierce Charles is staying at Sheffield Wednesday. Bailey Cadamartery is staying at Sheffield Wednesday. And that is all we got time for today. Thank you very much for joining us, Alex. Thanks for your hard work over the whole deadline. And we'll do it all again in a few months' time. Cheers.